Another thing I was fascinated with this particular piece was the shadows.
Can you tell us why you decided to collaborate with Nicholas on this?
It's been a lifelong dream. We've known each other since we were teenagers. We met at the St. Louis Tap Festival, when I was 14, he was 15. And then we were also in Stomp together for many years. And we were betrothed to be married by Diane Walker, one of our master historians. A lot of you might be familiar with her. She directed the first 2 years of the Jacob's Pillow Tap program. But we decided that we were better off as artistic collaborators. And a long time ago we made that decision.
But why specifically did you get interested in the technology?
I mean, it's so exciting. When he first started working on his solo material with it, it's endlessly exciting because there are endless possibilities at your fingertips. And Nicholas, I mean, he says I did a lot of research. He did years of research. And he's one of those guys that'll oh, this is this weird thing that does this, I'm gonna buy it. I call him an electronic spendthrift, but really because of that curiosity, and he used to build computers, he takes things apart. The reason that these instruments are set up the way they are is because he learned how to solder up and, basically make a contact microphone from scratch almost, a piezo element. And I learned how to do that. I made a couple boards. Okay, but it's not just his curiosity, it's his artistry, and he's a masterful percussionist and explorer and still a big kid. And
most important thing.
Yeah, of course. And we both have a really deep and rich appreciation for such a broad range of music, including electronic music, and the way that relates to what we do in kind of a jazz vernacular. So despite the fact that we're using, of course we have to go to the club because we're using electronic music, but there's such a range of possibilities with it. And, I mean, it's just long overdue that we collaborated on something, and I think the timing is really serendipitous because when he was first developing this, I couldn't wait to present. He was like, well, let me get it ready. So his first solo, in the public eye was in just a Dorrance Dance show, but really it's his, it's his invention and his world that we just get to play in and create, and we're very lucky to be a part of it.
So I think people are probably dying to know how this works. Can you show us?
I'll show you a little bit without giving away all the secrets, because I know you guys will go home and build it.
Secrets.
So it starts off with a board, and you see this contact microphone, which can also be used as a drum trigger, and that goes back to a trigger to MIDI converter, which is used in all electronic drum sets. But I went through Michelle talks about buying stuff, I went through about 4 different ones before I found the one that worked best for our purposes. And then we're running that MIDI trigger unit into a computer running a masterful piece of software called Ableton, which is a digital audio workstation developed specifically for live performance. Now it's used a lot in DJs, DJ performances. All sort of electronic musicians are using this software. It's capable of doing loops and manipulating them in thousands of ways. It's capable of recording ideas live and then manipulating those ideas you've recorded live. I mean, it's just, you can do absolutely anything with it. So you saw not only are we able to assign all sorts of different instruments to boards, but we can also affect those instruments, which you saw Michelle doing on this board over here. Her sounds were dry, and then she had the Wii controller to do effects. For instance, in my solo, I have different sets, different electronic drum sets, programmed to all these different buttons. And then these 2 buttons arm the track to record, and this will record the loop. Before, when I had a controller right next to me, I could see everything that I was doing. Everything would light up in colors, and I would just have to go over and stop it to play it, stop it to stop it, and then I could go back and play it. For this, it's like playing a video game. I have to arm it, record it, like arm it, record it, go back to it, and stop it. So as I'm building the track, I'm dancing the whole time, and then I'm like arming and recording different sections of the loop. Then every time I want to stop it, I have to go back to that loop that I recorded, stop it, go back to the loop that I'm currently playing, and then work with that. So it's just kind of like crazy mind game, and you're, you know, dancing the whole time, and it's really insane. It's kind of like, it takes some time to develop this skill of like thinking and dancing. Let's see. These are all of my, these are the first sets that I have. All these, every single sound, I didn't mention this, but every single sound that I use in my solo is all Aaron's vocals. Nothing is a synthesizer. Everything is Aaron. So that's a drone, and these are just notes. I have some breaths, and what you have it. Then I switch to another kit, and I have these sounds. I switch to another kit, and I have these sounds. I switch to another kit, I have my drum sounds. And I have two more kits, one that's like really long melodic notes. And then my last kit are these riffs. And the way I got all of this material is I recorded Aaron singing over a drone and singing over a melodic progression, and then I went back into that melodic progression and I chopped everything down into little chunks and segments that I could utilize, because that's part of what happens is, I mean, ultimately I could just run around here and play every single board, and you know, we could have like infinite possibilities, but to have only 8 boards, you have to figure out what 8 notes to use.
How does this differ in choreographing with all of this in mind? I mean, I think we got some of the idea of the complexity of what you're talking about. So how did you go about approaching your choreography in a way that is different from how you usually do it?
Well, the first thing that we started with, actually the very first thing we did, because we knew we wanted both acoustic and electronic elements, we built the acoustic boards with the, you know, basically it's like a street, kind of like a grate on there, and bought the chains. And we, in part because I think we didn't want to miss that element, we started with that. So that was the first, I feel it's interesting that that's the first thing we did, but I think it was just because we didn't want to lose touch with the base, the root of what we were doing.
But then when we started talking about putting together music and tracks, because that's the other element is, you know, 85% of the music, if not 90%, is all original music. So we wrote all of this material, and some of it, of course, in collaboration with the other musicians. But, you know, that's another reason we kind of, we're like, what are we gonna...
we relied a lot on, you know, Nicholas had created some compositions that we then got to work inside of. Like, you know, for the very first, the opening number, the opening, you know, segment is a melody that Nicholas had written, and then using those notes and adding a few, it became this, you know, fun kind of musical collaboration, but you're limited, and I think that's another important thing that we made a decision about, because I started losing my mind. We came here, we had a residency here, some of you may have been there when we did a little showing. I was like, we could do this, and what if we could do this? And Nicholas was like, we don't have time to do all of it, you know, like, you know, of course, like, he's thought of all these things as well.
We ended up doing most of them.
Yeah, but,
The idea was never for us to do everything, you know. I mean, essentially we could do that. It could be tap dancers playing all the music, and that's not really what we wanted. We wanted to be able to integrate with live music and be able to play melodically and harmonically, literally. I mean, we do that in our minds a lot. We play melodies in our runs. We're thinking about those things, but to be able
that's
to
what we sound like when we're soloing. You know, or it could be a bass, or it could be, But, and you know, we've had this conversation where if someone's sophisticated enough to hear a tonal difference in what you're doing percussively, then great. But they don't know that you're like, you know, no one knows that. You sound like that. Yeah. But now maybe you'll know, you know, so we started, but we're playing it more simply, in part also so that it's accessible. Right. Do the dancers improvise? Yes. Almost every single solo is improvised. In fact, every single solo is improvised. Yeah. There's a lot of, we do a good bit of structuring, like, please open it up here, we'll give emotional direction if that's needed. But one of the reasons that we work with the dancers that we do is because we trust them and they understand our intention without too much of that kind of, control. So we're incredibly lucky. And sometimes we offer a solo to a specific dancer in a moment because we know what they're going to bring to the moment. So that, that's also very important.
Okay, the last question, what's next for Michelle and Nicholas?
What's next?
That's an incredibly broad question. I mean, specifically with this idea, I know both of us are talking about, this is the initial approach. Like the possibilities are limitless. We're already talking about including all sorts of video and projection ideas. We would love to include that element, write more music. I mean, we could take this into a club in New York City. We could include more electronic musicians and DJs. We could take it in so many different directions. But
yeah, that's the hard part, is just like which direction to go in first.
I already ordered this this thing that tracks body motions, so I'm gonna start working with that. Yeah.
When did you do that?
Yeah, I ordered it today. Yeah, so you can just stand above it, and it has 22 recognizable gestures, like things like opening your hand, crunching your hands.
Kind of like Imogen Heap stuff, but not really.
Yeah, but it's just there's no glove. It's just in the air.
Wow.
Yeah, it just recognizes. The technology is getting crazy. I mean, the possibilities for dancers to be completely interactive with music it's happening.